Namaste everyone, I'm your co-host Shawnee ma'am. Welcome to your favorite learning channel. The topic for today's video is natural vegetative propagation. So in our previous video, we had learned that plants can reproduce both by asexual means of reproduction, also by sexual means of reproduction. So today, let's see what is natural vegetative propagation. So vegetative propagation is an asexual method of reproduction that takes place in plants. So many plants can propagate themselves by asexual reproduction, and this form of asexual reproduction in plants is known as vegetative propagation. It involves the development of a new progeny plant or a new baby plant from the vegetative parts of the plant, and these vegetative parts can be roots, stem, leaves, buds, etc. So rather than being reproduced, or rather than the plants being reproduced from the reproductive part of the plant, that is from flower, they reproduce by these vegetative parts of the plant, and this is known as vegetative propagation. So vegetative propagation can be of two types. One is natural vegetative propagation, another one is artificial vegetative propagation. So today we will be only focusing on the natural vegetative propagation. Okay. So now what is natural vegetative propagation? Let's see. Natural vegetative propagation, which is one of the types of vegetative propagation. Okay. So this type of vegetative propagation, as the name suggests, it takes place naturally. So it involves the vegetative parts of the plants, like it involves vegetative parts of plant of the plants, and these can be roots, stem, leaves, etc. Okay, and these parts can give rise to new plants. Okay, so these can give rise, they give rise to new plants. Okay, so these are known as, these parts which give rise to new plants, they are known as vegetative propagules. Okay, there's a specific term called vegetative propagules. So vegetative propagule is a vegetative structure that can detach from a parent plant and can give rise to a new plant. Okay, so these are vegetative propagules. They have the ability of detaching themselves from their parent plant, and then they give rise to new progeny plants, and these are the examples of vegetative propagules. Okay, so now let's see how vegetative propagation takes place by different means. So first we will look at the roots. So vegetative propagation by roots. So what happens is, roots of some plants develop small buds. Roots of some plants, what do they develop? They develop small buds. Okay, so these buds, they later develop into baby plants. They later develop, later on they develop into small, or we can say they develop into baby plant, or a new progeny plant, we can say. So such roots contain, these roots that develop, or which develop small buds and then later develop into baby plants, such roots contain sufficient quantities of stored food. Okay, we can take an example where this type of propagation can be seen, that is in case of sweet potato. Okay, so this is vegetative propagation that is taking place by roots. Next we will see the vegetative propagation that takes place by stem. Okay, in case of stem there are several examples of vegetative propagation by stem. First let's look at bulb. Okay, so what happens is stems in some plant stem in some plants, they have enough food stored in them. What do they have? They have stored food, enough food stored in the stem, and they also they bear and they also bear, what do they bear? They bear buds. Okay, so these buds can develop into, these buds that we were talking about, these buds can develop into a new plant. Okay, so they are called as, such buds are called as what? They are called as bulbs. Okay, so this type of propagation with the help of bulbs can be seen in, this can be seen in onion, garlic, etc. Okay, now next example of stem would be by means of tuber. Okay, so tuber is an underground storage organ. Underground storage organ. Tuber is an underground storage organ which have special swollen, they have, what do they have? They have specialized or special swollen modified stem or root. Okay, so in this underground storage organ, what is stored? Food is stored, and they have special swollen modified stem or root. So they become swollen because they have food stored in them. So if it is modified stem can be found in potato. So potato have, this can be our examples. We can consider these as examples. So potato have stem tuber and root tuber can be found in Dalia. Okay, so these modified storage organ can give rise to new plants. So these are known as tuber. Okay, so next example would be of runner. Okay, so what is this? Plants that have weak stem, plants with weak stem, what happens here? They give off roots. Okay, and this happens whenever the stem touches the ground. Okay, so here the plants that have weaker stem, they give off their roots whenever they touch the ground. So what happens is, when older parts of the plant die, then the branches separate from the parent plant and they form individual plant, and this can be seen in, example we can take of strawberry. Okay, strawberry, grass, etc. Okay, so now let's move on and see how vegetative propagation takes place by leaves. So here what happens in some plants, in some plants, what happens is their leaves, they bear small buds. They bear small buds which have the potential, these buds can, or they have the potential of what? They have the potential to grow into new plants. New plant. So this is how the buds present on the leaves of some plants can grow into new plants, and this is how vegetative propagation takes place by leaves. And we can find this type of vegetative propagation in leaves of bryophyllum. Bryophyllum. Okay. So now let's quickly revise the things that we have studied today, that we have covered today. So we know that plants can reproduce both by asexual and sexual means. So asexual reproduction that takes place in plants is also known as vegetative propagation. Okay, so vegetative propagation is of two types, natural and artificial. Today we have focused only on natural vegetative propagation. So natural vegetative propagation involves vegetative parts of the plants like the roots, stem, leaves, etc. Okay, so these vegetative parts of the plant, they can give rise to new plants, and these parts are known as vegetative propagules. So what are vegetative propagules? It is a vegetative structure that can detach from the parent plant and can grow into or can give rise to a new plant. Then we discussed how vegetative propagation takes place from these different vegetative structures or vegetative propagules. So first we discussed about the roots. So what happens? Roots of some plants, they develop small buds, and these buds later develop into a baby plant or a new progeny plant. This can be seen in sweet potato. So here is an image of sweet potato. They have small buds, they are, which later develop into baby plant. Then we discussed how vegetative propagation takes place by stem. By stem, there are some examples of vegetative propagation like bulb, tuber, and the other one was runner. Okay, so runner. So first, let's see what bulb is. So what happens? Stem in some plants, they have enough food stored in them and they also bear buds, and these buds, they develop into new plant, and these same buds are known as bulbs. This can be seen in onion, garlic, etc. Okay, here we can see image of onion bulb, right? This is onion bulb. So here the vegetative reproduction is taking place by these bulb, which are a modification of the stem. Then we discussed about tuber. Here we can see the tuber of Dalia. Okay, so tuber is actually an underground storage organ that have specialized swollen modified stem or root. So modified stem can be found in potato. So potato has stem tuber, whereas in case of Dalia, these are root tubers. Okay. Then we talked about runners. So in some plants, what happens? The plants having weak stem, they give off roots whenever they touch the ground. So as a result, when older plants or older parts of the plant, they die, then the branches separate from the parent plant and they give rise to, or they form new individual. Can be seen, this type of propagation can be seen in strawberry, grass, etc. Then we also talked about how vegetative propagation takes place by the help of leaves. So in some plants, like in case of bryophyllum leaf, what happens is the leaves have small buds, and these buds, here we can see they're small buds, so these buds have the potential to grow into new plants. So this is how vegetative propagation takes place, by the help of leaves that have small buds, and this type of propagation by leaves can be seen in case of bryophyllum leaf. So I hope you all would have got some great insights by watching today's video. Please do not forget to like and share the video. Till then, thank you for watching.